Imagine an alien world, teeming with life, but completely silent. No buzzing, no chirping, no wings beating the air. This was Earth, nearly 400 million years ago. But that silence was about to be shattered. The sky wasn't safe. It was about to become a hunting ground. The first creature to conquer the air wasn't a bird, not a dinosaur, but something far more ancient, far more alien. This creature had legs, dozens of them, and a segmented body that stretched longer than your arm. It was a giant arthropod, a monster straight from a nightmare, and it was about to grow wings. We're in the Devonian period, often called the Age of Fishes. The oceans are packed with armored giants and terrifying predators. On land, the first forests are just beginning to rise strange, alien-looking plants reaching for the sun. But the air is an empty, untapped superhighway. For millions of years, flight was a biological impossibility, until evolution decided to run an experiment. Our story begins not in the sky, but in the water. We see early insects, things like silverfish, scuttling around the damp undergrowth, feeding on decaying plant matter. They are small, vulnerable, and constantly hunted by scorpions and giant centipedes on the forest floor. For these early insects, the ground is a death trap. Every shadow could be a predator. Every rustle in the leaves could mean the end. Survival meant finding a new way to escape. Some developed tougher armor. Others got faster. But one group started to develop something truly revolutionary. Look closely at the thorax of this primitive insect. You see these small, rigid flaps on its sides. At first, they were just nubs. Scientists believe they might have been used as gills, or perhaps to absorb heat from the sun, like tiny solar panels, giving these insects an energy advantage in the cool, damp forests. They would crawl up a tall, fern-like plant, angle these flaps towards the sun, and warm up faster than their cold-blooded competitors. This gave them the energy to forage longer and escape quicker. But then, something incredible happened. An insect, fleeing a predator, leaps from a high branch. Instead of just falling, those little flaps catch the air. It doesn't fly, not yet, but it glides. It sails over the head of its attacker, landing safely a few feet away. This is a game changer. Suddenly, a three-dimensional escape route opens up. Over thousands of generations, natural selection favors insects with larger and larger flaps. These protowings become more effective for gliding, allowing them to travel further and further with each leap. Now, let's fast forward a few million years to the Carboniferous period. The world is a humid, oxygen-rich swamp. The plants that were once small are now colossal trees, and the air is thick with 35% oxygen compared to our 21% today. This superoxygenated atmosphere acts like a performance enhancer for insects, allowing them to grow to terrifying sizes. And that gliding insect, it's no longer just gliding. Its flaps have evolved into true wings. Muscles have developed at their base, allowing for powered flapping flight. We are witnessing the birth of the first flyers. Among them are the Polyodixiopter, ancient insects with 2 pairs of wings and a long, sharp, beak-like mouthpart used to pierce the tough stems of plants and suck out the sap. They are the first aerial herbivores. The sky is filled with their buzzing, a sound never before heard on this planet. But where there is prey, predators will follow. Enter the Meganeura. This is not a dragonfly. This is its monstrous ancestor, the griffinfly? Imagine a dragonfly, but scale it up. Now, scale it up again. The Meganeura had a wingspan of over 2.5 feet, as wide as a modern eagle. Its body was thick and muscular. Its head was dominated by 2 enormous compound eyes, each made of thousands of individual lenses, giving it nearly 360-degree vision. It could see you from across a football field in slow motion, and below those eyes, a set of powerful serrated mandibles, designed for one thing: crushing. Its 6 legs weren't for walking. They were covered in sharp spines, arranged into a basket of death. The Meganeura was the apex predator of the Carboniferous sky. It was the F-22 raptor of its time. It would patrol the swampy skies, its giant wings beating with immense power. Using its incredible vision, it would lock onto a target, another flying insect, perhaps one of the Polyodixiopter. It didn't chase its prey. It calculated its flight path and flew to where the prey asterisk would be. Asterisk, with a burst of speed, it would close the distance in seconds. It would fly up from below and behind its victim, a blind spot. The smaller insect wouldn't even know it was being hunted until it was too late. The Meganeura's spiny legs would shoot forward, forming that inescapable cage, snatching the victim right out of the air. The force of the impact alone would be stunning. Then, still in midair, the powerful jaws would get to work, crunching, shearing, and dismembering its meal without ever needing to land. The sky, once a safe haven, had become the most dangerous place on Earth. For millions of years, the griffinflies ruled the air unopposed. They were the undisputed kings. Their sheer size and predatory efficiency meant nothing could challenge them. This reign of the insects was a unique period in Earth's history, a time before birds, before pterosaurs, before bats. The sky belonged entirely to these six-legged hunters. They perfected the art of aerial combat, developing maneuvers and hunting strategies that are still used by dragonflies today. But here's the twist, the scientific surprise that changes how we view these creatures. For a long time, we thought their massive size was only because of the high oxygen levels. More oxygen meant they could fuel their large bodies more efficiently. And while that's true, it's not the whole story. Recent research suggests something else was at play. A new predator was emerging, not on the ground, but in the air itself. It wasn't about oxygen, it was an arms race. The prey insects were getting bigger to be harder to catch. In response, the Meganeura had to get bigger to keep hunting them. It was a classic evolutionary arms race, pushing both predator and prey to their absolute physical limits. The griffinflies became giants, not just because they could, but because they had too. They were locked in a desperate struggle for dominance, forcing them to become the largest flying insects the world has ever known. They weren't just products of their environment. They were warriors forged in the heat of constant high-stakes aerial warfare. Think about the sheer terror. You're one of the first flying creatures, a pioneer of the skies. You've just escaped the horrors of the forest floor, only to find a new monster waiting for you in the clouds. A monster with wings as wide as your body is long, with eyes that see everything and legs that form a cage of spears. There is no escape. The air is no longer about freedom, it's about survival. The reign of the giant insects lasted for tens of millions of years. But like all dynasties, it had to end. The climate began to change. The great coal swamps dried up, and oxygen levels in the atmosphere started to drop. This was a critical blow. The giant bodies of the griffinflies could no longer get enough oxygen to power their massive flight muscles. Their size, once their greatest asset, became their fatal weakness. They were too big to survive in the new oxygen-poor world. Slowly, the giants vanished from the skies. But flight was here to stay. Smaller, more efficient insects survived. And as the age of insects in the sky came to a close, new wings were beginning to evolve on the ground. A new kind of animal, a vertebrate, was looking to the sky, ready to take the throne. The age of reptiles was dawning. The first predators to fly were not birds or pterosaurs, but these incredible, monstrous insects. They were the pioneers who proved that life could conquer the air. They created the blueprint for aerial hunting, a legacy that continues in every dragonfly we see today. They were the original masters of the sky. And if you think a 2.5-foot wide dragonfly was terrifying, just wait until you see what crawled out of the swamp to take its place. That's a story for next time. Thanks for watching.